As you may already know, Surrealism is an art movement which seeks to release the unconscious mind, often juxtaposing images that are absurd or irrational to the casual observer. This surrealist painting is my attempt to confront some of the issues that have been plaguing my mind due to certain experiences in daily life. A quick description of this image can be defined as a female form with a tear in her body sitting on a surface surrounded by colorful gases of a nebula in space. The cloud of hues is in the distance and surrounding the figure. While I admire the colorful gases that compose the nebulas of the cosmos, the goal of this painting was not to make a photorealistic representation of what can be seen from a telescope. Rather, the objective was to use the reference images as a source of inspiration to express the emotions being experienced by the artist. Any viewer of this piece should see a curvy feminine form sitting alone with a tear through her body that exposes a similar void inside. The clouds that can be seen in front of the woman should be evidence to the viewer that this woman feels alone and cannot see the onlooker as a possible source of compassion. To start this painting, I created a mixture of phthalo blue and dioxazine purple to create a deep blue-violet for the background. I then started to create washes of paint on the canvas with a mixture of cerulean blue, white, and magenta in order to create the nebulous gases for this environment. To create the washes, I added water to the acrylic paint and then used a flat brush to apply the paint to the canvas in a haphazard circular fashion, and then used either another brush to lift or remove some of the paint or dab the canvas with a paper towel to remove additional paint. The removal of some of the paint in this manner helped develop a translucent haze that allowed some of the original blue-violet through the new layer, regardless of the color that was used. These semi-sheer layers of three colors that resonate with the artist's individuality helped develop a cloudy nebulous effect for the background. I then used the feminine reference images as a guide in drawing the woman sitting on the ground looking off in the distance. Once the outlines were blocked onto the canvas with white chalk pastel, I was ready to work. A lighter chalk pastel is used for this because it can be wiped off the canvas without affecting the color of the paint used to create the work. I started to add the nebulous effect and darker empty expanse colors to the woman to suggest that she is part of the occupied space, yet separate from it. I wanted to suggest the woman's anatomy to a degree while leaving most of her corporeal being the same tones of the empty space. Therefore, I was selective about where I added lighter dark colors, using darker colors where the figure receded and lighter colors for parts of the figure that come closer to the viewer. Hopefully you noticed how I worked back and forth between both the figure in the foreground and the universal space behind the figure. In order to keep all of the colors and mark making unified in the painting, I worked throughout the canvas in about a 15-minute interval each time I sat down to paint. The time here is not what is important, but rather creating marks on many parts of the canvas so that if you as the artist walk away from the painting, the marks and color development are similar throughout the artwork. Eventually, I used a lighter cerulean blue and white to add dimension to the gluteus. I initially thought this hue was too opaque for that part of the anatomy, but then decided that perhaps the corporeal plane was permeating into this feminine creature, connecting her to the surface, so I left the color as it was. I attempted to draw and subsequently paint hands onto the surface the woman is sitting on, but I didn't like how the hands looked, and that wasn't really the focus of the painting, so I eventually covered them with a thicker layer of cloudy style paint in all the colors to help the viewer understand that this woman is completely surrounded by the universe, alienating her even more. After I felt that the gaseous atmosphere around the figure was developed enough, I laid the canvas on the floor and mixed a very watery white, which I loaded onto a round brush. I then used my right hand to tap the brush, allowing that really liquidy white to splatter onto the canvas in different sized dots in order to create what I hope look like stars at different distances in this celestial image. I'm not really sure that this painting is finished right now, but I hope you get the idea of what could be done to create a surreal painting.